Hello, everybody. I'm not going to start with the singing today because I don't feel like it. It's funny when I start these things, I feel like I often just I'll open the voice recording app and I'll just threaten myself with pressing it. And then kind of out of nowhere, as if my own hand is not attached to my own brain, I just hit the button. And I'm like, oh, we're on. We're live. Except not. But I hope everyone had a great week. As you can tell, because I'm sure everyone was really concerned, last week I feel like I was going through some sort of an allergy, not crisis, but just an allergy situation. Usually the last week of August towards the first week of September, when it kind of starts raining, but then it's still kind of hot every once in a while. Basically every 3 hours, we enter a new sort of climate system, ecosystem. I really like that word, ecosystem. I'm going to name this episode of the podcast Ecosystem, and I hope that I'm able to kind of work it in throughout the episode. But if I don't, and this podcast is called Ecosystem and it makes no sense, that's fine. So I'm making that note right now. I'm calling this file Ecosystem. And you know what? It is what it is. But yeah, anyway, what I was saying is I was having an allergy situation. So now I sound back 100%. I just sound like I have a regular sinus infection, which is just my voice, as opposed to a sinus infection with a little bit of allergies on top. It kind of is harder for people to tell that I'm sick because, as I just mentioned, I sound sick just talking normally, and not in a good way, wow, you sound sick, I'm a good singer. No. I sound unwell, in need of hot tea with maybe a bit of honey, which someone told me once, I can't remember who, someone told me that if you put honey in hot enough water, it turns into poison. And it is one of those things where it's I will believe it or not based on who is telling me this information, not based on any facts. Those things that you heard it one time from one person in one place somewhere, and you kind of trust the person enough that it is just a fact. It has cemented itself as a fact in your brain for all eternity. Something someone told you 10 years ago, and I could barely tell you what I had for dinner 2 hours ago. But not only do I remember this fact about the honey, but I have just believed it. Nary a Google search, nary there was a while when I was in school, I had access to certain academic databases. I never typed in keyword honey, keyword hot water, keyword poison turning. Not once. So I'm actually going to do that now. We're going to start and spread and or stop the spread of this rumor right now. Honey in hot water. Let's see. Turns out honey should never be warmed, cooked, or heated under any condition. This is from an article in 2020, which is definitely what the scientists should have been studying in 2020. I'm glad that that's what was happening. Also, this was at least 10 years before or after I had heard this fact, so I'm ahead of Google. And of course, I'm reading the paragraph or the sentence that I just read you was from, I want to make sure everyone gets properly credited. It was from healthshots.com, and it was just the box that came up immediately at the top of Google when I typed in honey in hot water. And yeah. Yes, there are a few potential side effects. This is from BeBodyWise.com. There are a few potential side effects of drinking honey with warm water. It may cause AMA in the body with the same effects as poison. AMA is a condition where the mucus and toxicity of the body increase, causing many diseases. I'm going to be really honest. I'm just kind of saying words, or reading words rather. I don't know what all that means, but I've put honey in tea enough times that it's like, am I really going to stop now? It's like all this stuff that comes out about, a certain fast food chain that, their ice cream, when it works, has like a chemical in it that makes it not melt. I've read about that same fast food chain. I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to like disparage the good name of said restaurant, but I've heard that they soak their meat in bleach, or like ammonium or something. But at this point, like I've been eating it my entire life and will continue to. And when I meet my demise, whether that be in a minute from now or in the year 2100, I don't know that I could blame that restaurant, Or could I? I am sitting down in my standard beanbag chair. It is 7:41 p.m., which I in the last little bit, I feel like I've more so recorded these in the AM. But don't worry, I'm still drinking my ritual coffee. I've kind of shaken it up a little bit. I would normally just go for like a hot coffee, just black, no cream, no sugar, no anything. But we are going into the fall season. And yesterday I did buy from Costco 2 large containers of iced coffee. I was thrilled to see that was something that they offered. Actually, yesterday was the first time that I really went to Costco, like with the intent of spending money, if that makes sense. Like normally I would go either as a proxy of my larger familial unit with like a list in hand, or I would go physically with my, like family and just buying like, the boring stuff like bread and chicken. And I would really try and avoid those like couple aisles with the snacks, with like the spicy dill pickle almonds. And like I would like have to drag myself out of the hummus, the dip section without buying something because I want to buy all of it. For whatever reason, yesterday I woke up and I said, you know what? It's September. Let's spend some money. So I really like indulged and I went in to the snack aisle. I limited myself. It was kind of like one item per category. So, there were some rules to my game. Also, I have a life hack. So for the past little bit, like if I want to see like what snacks Costco is offering or whatever, I'll go on their website because you can do like a delivery thing. And I think like most delivery services, the price that they show you is like inflated from the price that would be like just on the regular store. So I'm so used to looking at like what a bag of spicy dill pickle almonds costs if you order it for delivery, that when I went in store yesterday and saw the price if I just picked it off the shelf and took it to the checkout, I was like, this is so cheap. I was like, everything is just so, like I really, for 45 minutes there, I was living in a society in which inflation has not dug its claws into. And it was it was amazing. So do that. It takes about 4 months of priming yourself with the inflated prices, with the delivery prices. But once you've really, come to terms with a bag of spicy dill pickle almonds, costing you $25, which is just nuts. That's literally $250, but whatever. Once you've come to terms with that, and then you go in store and they're only like 16 or 17, it might not be that drastic of a price difference, but you know what I mean? It was a noticeable price difference. You'll just be thrilled. You'll be like, oh my gosh. And then the problem is you'll buy everything, which I almost did and then sort of reverted back. But anyway, perusing the aisles of Costco, got my iced coffee. And why I mentioned this at all was I am drinking said iced coffee in a mug. I think I liked the idea of a mug. I also, for a split second, thought like, I kind of want like a hot coffee, which is a problem because I bought so much iced coffee. So I almost put my iced coffee in the microwave, and I just thought that there was something wrong with that. Like the microwave is not the ecosystem for the iced coffee to exist. But I didn't stop there, because normally I would. I would just do hot coffee, iced coffee, go and live my life. But I went further. I put more effort and more energy into this 7 p.m., really closer to 8 p.m. coffee experience. I don't know if I talked about this last week. I think I did. But I ordered a pumpkin cheesecake syrup. I think it's called like a coffee syrup. I think you could put it in whatever. I don't know if you want to put it in your yogurt or like put it on a spoon and then sip it. I don't know. But do whatever feels right. What felt right to me today is putting it in my iced coffee. So that syrup arrived a couple of days ago from Amazon. I'm getting a bit better at like ordering food on Amazon. Not better in the sense that I was doing a poor job at it, but better in the sense of just mentally feeling more at ease with consuming something that came to me via mail, which I totally get it. Like thinking of it now, I'm pretty sure that's how like 99% of food arrives at the grocery store is via some sort of a mailing system, or at least like trucks. Anyway, all of this to say, really enjoying the syrup. It is a little bit sweet. Like I think I could have done with more of the actual, it's a good balance of pumpkin and cheesecake. I think they got that right, but I feel like I'll add more to get the pumpkin cheesecake flavor, but then I have to put up with the intense sweetness of the sugar part. So I don't know that I'm explaining that correctly. I think once I start being a judge on Chopped, which I didn't want to announce it early, but it's happening. I'm going to be a judge on the Chopped Food Network show. So I think once I do that for a couple seasons, I'll start getting a bit more of a vocabulary in terms of describing flavor profiles. But for now, I'm getting notes of pumpkin and cheesecake, but I'm also getting notes of sickeningly sweet. I think it's like a fake, like a aspartame or something that has been created in a lab. That will end me in a lab, but you know what I mean. Highly recommend. And then I do finish off the coffee with I have the pumpkin spice seasoning blend, which my question with pumpkin spice is it like the actual, like when you go to the baking aisle and it's like that alphabetized list or like section of seasonings, like when you go LMNOP, you stop at P and you get the pumpkin spice seasoning, like I guess it's like seasoning, but seasoning makes me think of garlic powder. Like, what is it called? Spice mix? That sounds a bit better. It doesn't taste like pumpkin, right? Like the pumpkin spice powder, for lack of a better word. Like, it's not supposed to taste like pumpkin, is it? Or I think it's technically called like pumpkin pie spice. Like, does that taste like pumpkin, or is that supposed to taste like what a pumpkin pie tastes like? Or what makes pumpkin turn into a pie? I'm really getting in to the weeds here, and it's not even Thanksgiving time. That'll be for next month's episodes, which, if anyone's confused, we do Thanksgiving in like October here. And by here, I mean Canada. I don't know why. I don't know whose idea that was. It seems a little early, but I'm going to be really honest. Like, I actually appreciate it because I think in the States, they have Thanksgiving like the end of November, and that just feels really late to me. Like that, like I'm already singing Christmas carols at that point, so I do appreciate that in Canada, like we do it, I think it's usually like second week of October, so we do that, and then there's a couple weeks for it to just be about Halloween, and then come November 1st, we're sprinting to Christmas within the ecosystem. I think Halloween being in October, Thanksgiving being in October is a better placement in the ecosystem of autumnal holidays when compared to the American holiday ecosystem of it being placed at the end of November. In this essay, I will... ... Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Well, now that I spent 15 minutes essentially talking about the beverage I made to record this episode, I now find myself halfway through it. And not to brag, But I did make a list of some things that I wanted to talk about. I would say this week, more than most, I was thinking of things that I thought, oh, you know what? That's actually a really fun thing to talk about on the episode. I'm going to write that down. And of course I didn't. And then I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the morning last night and could sleep and was like, okay, while I'm here, while I'm not doing anything. I actually think not being able to sleep in the middle of the night is like top 10 worst things that can happen to someone. Maybe top 25. Because like there's literally nothing you can do. You're just staring at the wall, thinking of never anything positive. Like it's never like, oh, it's 2:30 a.m. and I can't go back to sleep, and I'm going to think about all of the best things that have ever happened to me. No, it's like, let me think of all the most embarrassing things I've ever done. Let me have a countdown of how many hours of sleep I'm not going to get because I'm wasting my time not sleeping. And I don't know, like, it's just the worst. It's the worst. Top 25, I'm telling you. Potentially top 10. In the ecosystem of bad things that can happen to a human, I don't know. It's in there. It's somewhere in there. But the number one thing that I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, and I'll explain how I came to this, but I was out of town. I was overseas. Not really, like, not overseas as in I was in Europe. I took a ferry about an hour distance from where I currently was to an island, okay? So I went on a tropical island vacation, except it was not a tropical island. It was basically Vancouver, but an island. That's a hint as to where I went. And I went into a Walmart, as people do. And it was just... Actually, no. I went into 2 Walmarts that day. And they were both... could not have been more different from each other. And it got me thinking, they will really put a Walmart in any shape, any layout, any format of a building and make it work. No 2 Walmarts are the same. In the ecosystem of Walmart, they do not have standards as for like having like a standardized type of building. Most stores, you go in and yeah, there's going to be like a little bit of variation, but like you can kind of, like if you're familiar enough with one store, you can go to the same store in a couple towns over and it's like kind of the same idea, sort of, kind of. Like the aisles are kind of in the same places, like the bakery, like if it's like a full like supermarket, like the bakery is usually next to like the meat or whatever. Like it's all sort of the same. Walmart, they will take whatever real estate they can get. Some Walmarts have 2 floors. I've been in a Walmart that has 3 floors. I've been in a Walmart that has no floors. I've been in a Walmart that will sell you vegetables. There's some Walmarts that don't sell you vegetables. There's some Walmarts that are super centers. There's some Walmarts that are still like purple with the star in between the wall and the mart. I'm also very interested in the origin of the name Walmart. Mart, kind of self-explanatory, but is wall someone's name? Is it an acronym? Because it's not WALL Mart, it's WAL Mart. I would like some clarification on that. Some Walmarts look like Value Villages, and some Walmarts look like Whole Foods. Some of them have escalators, some of them do not. Some of them have full barber shops, operating businesses at the front. Some of them will have a Subway, there'll be a McDonald's, there'll be a Tim Hortons. Some of them you're lucky if you can even buy that like packet of potato wedges, which is like the best food ever. You know what I'm talking about, where like it's like the clear, like the deli bag with the handle. So good. Some Walmarts have there's a full like cake display, full bakery. There's the bakers there with the hats and everything. And some Walmarts you're lucky if you can buy a stale 6-pack of muffins. Like they will adapt to whatever their surroundings are. And I think we have 2 options. We can be confused by that. Well, 3 options. We can be confused by that. We can celebrate that and take it as a lesson in adapting and just working with what you were given. Or you can go option number 3, which is what I'm choosing to do, which is talk about it on your podcast. No, you can do both. All of the above options A and B, options 1 and 2. However I listed it previously, I truly can't remember. But you can do both. I'm going to be confused by it, but I'm also going to admire it. Because that's kind of cool. Also, I've been getting into great value versions of stuff. I didn't really know this before, but Walmart has their like brand, their no-name brand, their like with the Walmart brand, the great value brand, and they make like duplicates of things, like copycat versions of things, and they're really good. They have like a Ritz cracker version that's pretty good. They have like some cookies in the great value brand that are pretty good. For whatever reason, I never really, again, all of this a theme of this episode is me trusting, other than it being about ecosystems, is me kind of coming to terms with different methods of getting food in society. Like I mentioned before, I'm getting better at ordering food on Amazon. I'm also getting better at trusting the great value brand. For whatever reason, I just didn't, like, it just looked kind of weird, like the font. I think the old great value logo, like something about the font just rubbed me the wrong way, but they've since changed the font, and I'm ready to go. But I am going to Google, why is it called Walmart? And they used to spell it with a space in between the wall and the mart. Now it's just one big word. This seems very low to me. As of Halloween of last year, October 31st, 2022, Walmart has 10,586 stores. That sounds really low. It's like a bit embarrassing. Why is it called Walmart? JCPenney was involved. Something about Arkansas. Anyway, I don't know. I have no answer for you, but it was just a thought. It was just a thought that I had. Okay, let me refer back to my list. Oh, I have something very important that we need to discuss. I've talked about this before, well, not specifically, but I'm sure I've talked about different food trends before. How everyone's saying you got to put, this on that. You got to try this mixed with that. Put this in the freezer and it tastes better. Don't refrigerate your ketchup. Shake the bottle 3 times. Throw in some salt. Put it in a blender with kale. Drink it. And it's the best thing you ever had. There's these different food trends. And I have a theory as to why these kind of travel as fast as they do. Now, I'm going to be specifically talking about and this is apparently a trend that I've heard. I have not seen this be a trend, but I've heard, via word of mouth. Cottage cheese and mustard. Apparently, we're supposed to be using that as a condiment, dipping cottage cheese and mustard, like vegetables or whatever. And I said, okay, this is just like this seems like a trend for, like, no offense, like a retirement village. Like, how is cottage cheese now trending? The first thing I thought was I was happy for the cottage cheese makers because they probably have been, like, ridiculed. And, like, I just imagine if you're a kid and you're, like, the family business is making cottage cheese. Like, the last 20 years hasn't been kind to you. I didn't choose 20 for any specific reason, but I just feel like it's not like a cool thing to do. Like, we make cottage cheese. Well, apparently, and I'm not on TikTok, I'll occasionally look at a YouTube short, which is like it's basically the great value version of TikTok within the YouTube app. So when I'm, checking to make sure that I still have no followers or views or anything on my Nobody Asked for This podcast YouTube page that no one's ever looked at ever, I'm just, double checking to see if maybe today was the day that I got discovered. Hasn't been so far, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be. Fingers crossed in the ecosystem. But while I'm on there, I'll sometimes look at a YouTube short, but I don't really know what's happening. But apparently cottage cheese is trending. So it's probably going to sell out soon because I really don't think they're making cottage cheese to the level of which they need it to be if all the TikTok people are going to start running to the dairy aisle and getting like whole milk curd, full curd cottage cheese to then be mixing with mustard and dipping chicken apple sausages in. Like I'm very confused. I have not Googled it. And here's the thing. Everyone, you do a thesis of this podcast is you do whatever feels right to you. If you want to be dipping cottage cheese in a vat of mustard, mixing it with your celery, like, and that works for you, lovely. Like, so happy for you, truly. Don't let me stop you. I do some weird stuff myself. But I think the problem is people hear that and they think, oh, that's going to be gross. Like, who would do that? Yuck. And then they try it, and they confuse it not being bad for it being good. You know, you hear a combination such as that, and you think, oh, that's going to be disgusting. But, like, all it is cheese and mustard, like two flavors that are not in itself, like, gross, and you've just mixed it together. Like, in my mind, that's the face of mediocrity would be cottage cheese and mustard. There's no flavor. Mustard has a little bit of like a something, but like really there's no flavor. There's no seasoning. You can maybe, throw a couple shakes of like a Trader Joe's something just for some flavor. But like if you try that and it's not bad, don't be fooled. Something not being bad does not mean it's good. It just means it's not bad. It's like when people were putting mustard on watermelon. Like watermelon, which I love, doesn't have that strong of a flavor. Mustard, it doesn't have that negative of a flavor. So when you put something that doesn't taste bad on something that doesn't really taste like much, of course it's not going to taste bad. It's not like you're going to be like, bleh, like. But then you try it and you're like, oh, this is kind of good. No, it's not good. It's just not bad. I've said some very stupid things on this podcast, and I don't think this is one of them. I really think we've gotten confused. We're confusing something not being bad with being good. Especially when your expectation is this is going to be terrible. Then you try it and it's not bad. You're like, oh, well, this is really good. It's not good. It's just not bad. Now, I understand, like, that this tirade is inherently negative because I don't want to be convincing people that things they thought they loved, they actually didn't love, So if you tried the cottage cheese and the mustard and it's what you've been bringing for lunch the past 6 weeks or however long, I don't know, it takes a while for stuff to get to the YouTube shorts. If that's your journey, again, don't let me stop you. But if you have yet to try it, I just think in general, we really need to sit back and think, is this good? Or is it just not bad? I don't know. Also, I feel like it's the beginning of September. We're heading towards the middle of September. And I just really want to close out this show with letting you know that if the products in the Apple ecosystem, another point, in the Apple ecosystem that you own start glitching, which mine has, hunker down. They're going to be coming for us hard this month because I was using my phone the other day for like a simple Google search trying to see, probably along the lines of if honey mixed with water is poisonous, something like that, whatever the hell I Googled. Do you ever like sit down and you're just on your phone and you realize you've been Googling stuff for like 3 hours, but then if someone asked you what you were doing, you genuinely like don't remember? You're like, I don't know. I was like on Google, and they're like, what were you Googling? And you're like, I don't know. And it like seems like you're being sketchy, but like I was just literally Googling like, when does Wendy's like change the next Frosty flavor? Like just benign. But anyway, my phone was glitching. They did not want to tell me when Wendy's was changing the next Frosty flavor. And then I realized, like, oh, I Googled it. Oh, I couldn't Google it, but then when my phone started working again and it unfroze, Frozen 3, I Googled is the new iPhone coming out? And apparently it's coming out in a matter of weeks. So hunker down, hold on for dear life. Don't fall for it. Do not fall for it. We got this. We're stronger than this. And if maybe you have a newer edition of the iPhone than me, and your phone they haven't unleashed the virus on the lineup, on the model phone that you have, just know it's coming for you. But the good thing about Apple, the not bad thing about Apple, I don't want to confuse not bad with good. The not bad thing about Apple is they do have mercy on you come like mid-October, closer to November. And then around Christmas time, they're like, no, we're going to release more viruses because we want you to get a new phone for Christmas. But they do give you like respite, It's not just virus, because in order for them to have customers, they do actually have to have a functioning product. So it can't just be 24/7 your phone not working, or else they're probably scared that you're going to switch to Android. Although they train you to be dumb and have, no knowledge of how to use a phone that's not an iPhone. At least that was what happened in my case. I picked up a Samsung the other day. I couldn't make a phone call. I didn't know what button to press. It was all too complicated. I'm sure, easy to figure out at some point, but I just think Apple makes everything so simple that when you pick up a Samsung, you're like, what the hell? Like, you're just confused. Anyway, I don't know if any of that made sense, but the thesis is just don't fall for it. Reboot your phone, reset it as many times as you have to till October. I will be rebooting my phone till October, but I'm not falling for it. Because what happens is then you buy the new iPhone, and then you have like 11 months before the next one comes out, and then you're just back in the same... It's not like they only released the virus, and they've pretty much confirmed. If anyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, Apple has said, yes, when a new iPhone comes out, we infect the older phones with a virus that makes them slower so that you are incentivized to buy our new product. They have said that. I don't know if this is like a honey situation where I heard someone say that once and I just kind of believed it, but I'm pretty sure I looked into this and they have in a roundabout way, maybe not so directly, I don't know the exact verbiage that they use, but they have said, we basically virus your phones. I know virus isn't a verb, but you know what I mean. And I think this is my fourth iPhone in 10 years, which is actually not so bad. I think I had my first phone for 2 years. My second phone for 4 or 5. My third phone for another 3. And then this phone for 2. Did that make sense? No, it didn't. Anyway, literally no one cares about this. I'm talking about my iPhones like I'm talking about life partnerships, but you know what I mean. Actually, I don't even know what I mean, so scratch that. But either way, don't fall for it because it's literally the same software. You get a new phone and you're like, oh, this is so fun. I have a new phone. The camera looks a little bit better, which P.S. I can't ever get a new phone because I've tried the new cameras in the Apple store. When you go to the actual physical store, I look terrible in the new camera. My camera now is at the perfect blurriness that I almost look decent. Almost. So whatever filter they're injecting in the ecosystem of the Apple camera lenses, I need to just stop at whatever generation iPhone I have, which I think is the 10. I don't have the stovetop camera. I also held on to my home button. I had the iPhone 8 for I think 3 years. I had a home button for a couple years longer than most, just because I wanted to. See, the problem with not having a co-host for this is there's no one to tell me like, hey, what you're saying doesn't make any sense. Like I have no, like it's all just in my head with very little to no planning. But the upside, the good part, which I think this is actually good, not just not bad, is I have no listeners as well. So like my amount of co-hosts equals my amount of listeners, which I don't think many podcasts can say that that is the case, that formula is their reality. So it doesn't really matter because no one's going to hear this anyway. But like if let's say one day someone accidentally clicks something wrong, or like their phone, it's like September 12th and their phone is glitching, and, Apple decides to like play my podcast as opposed to like the other podcast called the Nobody Asked for This podcast that actually has listeners. Like I want that person to, in a frustrating time where they can't properly use their phone, I want them to be entertained. So I like to think that like I kind of make sense, maybe sort of kind of sometimes. But again, there's no one that listens to this, at least live, as I'm doing it, to tell me like what, or like, because the number one question I get from people is, wait, what do you mean? Or the worst is where someone will seemingly laugh at a joke I'm telling, and then be like, wait, what? My biggest fear in life, and I don't know that I would ever be told this, so it's not something I actively fear, but like there's something in my gut that tells me everyone is just like fake laughing at me. Like I'll just, be living my life. I'll tell a joke and people laugh and I think, oh my God, I'm so funny. But then I am always thinking like, wait, was that just like, were they just like saying that? And this is making me sound like a crazy person, like insecure about like this and that. Like I don't actually actively think about this all the time, but it's just like the biggest plot twist of my life would be that no one actually genuinely laughed at anything I said ever. And we were all just playing along. And again, there's not really a way in which I could find out that information because that's not how life works. I don't know if maybe, on my last days I float up to whatever and they tell me, unfortunately, there's some things we have to talk about, 1, and 2, no one thought you were funny. We were all fake laughing. And in the moment, I can't tell if I would want people to stop, or if I'm totally fine with like living in a falsehood, in an ecosystem of lies. That I'm this just like funny person. You know what? I'm gonna go with C. Screw it. If you are someone who's listening to this and you do know me and you are participating in the fake laughing, I appreciate you. And just keep doing it. I don't care, whatever. I mean, I made it this far. And I like to think I'm self-aware enough that, like, I'll make up for it in other ways. I'm really glad we straightened this out. There's a hair on my microphone. One sec. Actually, I will say I got dangerously close to pulling out the whole setup, putting out the microphones, wearing my headphones, connecting it to my laptop. Now, unfortunately, my laptop is within the Apple ecosystem, so it would for sure be glitching. I think if if it's too close to my phone, it might catch whatever virus, whatever cold Apple and Steve Jobs have unleashed on it for the month. So I do, in this time, try and keep my iPhone, or at least my Apple devices apart, so like they don't all catch it, because it is contagious. So that's another tip. Anyway, I feel like this is an episode longer than most. Actually, you know what? I like that as well. So this is going to be called Ecosystem, comma, an episode, not comma, parentheses, longer than most. I like that idea. I will say, if anyone is still listening to this, can you please go and read the description for the podcast from this past episode? Because I actually think that it's funny. And would recommend, like, if you just need a laugh, I actually think it's funny. And And it's an idea I had before, but I really wanted to use it when I felt like it was most appropriate. And I'm going to be annoying and not tell you why or tell you what I'm talking about. But I don't know. I would go do it. But the moral of the story is I did not get out my fancy podcast recording equipment because, one, it's been in a bag for over a year. Two, I actually think the quality is better when I just record from my phone. And three, it's just a lot of work. Oh, and four, I don't know that my laptop has significant storage to even open the program that it would need to record, let alone do the actual recording process. So, anyway, for whatever reason, I feel like I have a lot of stuff to talk about today, and I don't know why, but I'm going to cut it off there. If I was smart and like an actual business person, I would do more and then maybe do like chop the episode in half and do like one half this week, one half next week. I'm good. I'm just gonna, play it all as one. Maybe I'll have, like what if something crazy happens in the next couple of days and then I have to do like a whole episode on that and I want it to be, timely and relevant. Because I'm nothing if not those two things. We live in a very timely and relevant ecosystem here at the Nobody Asked for This podcast. So I'm going to end it there. I hope you all have a great week. I hope you, or I guess more so weekend. Have a great weekend first and then have a good rest of this week. Then have a good weekend. Then have a good week next week. And then we'll talk Thursday and then go from there. But I hope you've all had an amazing start to October. I hope you've had multiple pumpkin spice lattes. I hope you've kind of chain hopped and, tried the pumpkin spice latte from one place and then the pumpkin spice latte from like a food restaurant that probably shouldn't have pumpkin spice lattes. I know who I'm talking about. Do you? Do you? It might be the same restaurant that maybe not has ammonium, where it shouldn't be. That's all. That's also a stellar name for an episode. Ammonium where it shouldn't be. Because there are very few places where it should be, and a kitchen is not one of those places. But yeah, I hope you've been, putting a lot of Amazon syrups. If you're in the market for pumpkin spice syrup, check your local, like Winners, Marshalls, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, Home Sense. They randomly have like really good snacks and like stuff like that at very reasonable prices. I saw a 1.5 liter, what was that called? It was like a 1.1 liter. So I don't know, like a pint, a quarter of a gallon, I don't know, a thing of pumpkin spice syrup. And I didn't buy it, and I was proud of myself for not buying it. And in fact, I saw it twice. I saw it at one Winners and then a Marshalls. And I didn't buy it either time because I'm not going to use it. It's huge, like the size of my head. But if you are in search of that, if you heard me say that and you thought, you know what, I really want to invest in something like that, head over to Marshalls. Winners, TJ Maxx, all kind of the same thing. They will have something for you. In the meantime, while you're driving to Marshalls, you can listen to maybe the Nobody Asked for This podcast. Now, the Nobody Asked for This podcast exists in ecosystems in which podcast exists, even though it sounds a lot more low budget than your average podcast. But you can find us in Apple Podcasts. I guess it's iTunes, Spotify, other places that do podcasts, Amazon. You can give Bezos another 10 cents because why the heck not? He's already going to the moon for fun. Like, why stop him now? Speaking of the moon, very quickly, I will wrap this up, but like, why hasn't anyone gone back there? Like, it was a huge thing 50 years ago or whatever, 70 years ago. I think it was like the 60s. When was the 60s? Like 60 years ago? Oh, that's fun. We're living in the 60th anniversary of the 60s. Cool. But like, why haven't we gone back? Especially because there's been speculation that it didn't happen at all. So it's almost like if someone said to me, you did not go to American Taco Bell and get a Frito burrito as a Canadian. You did not do that. I almost feel like I would go again, and show them like, no, this is me. Like, I got a Frito burrito. I would record a video in the Taco Bell in the US and be like, hi, the date is this, the time is this is the, lovely cook at American Taco Bell who is probably high. They always are. I actually saw my first, what I recognized as someone who was high at a Taco Bell. I was probably like 12 or 13. And it was the first time that I looked at another human and I was like, oh, like, I know your game. I know what's up. Like, there was some redness in the eyes, because I'm sure I had seen it before, but like I'd never registered like, oh, you're, you've altered yourself, through means of which are not natural. Like, you don't have allergies, you're high. Which, again, whatever you need to do to get through your shift at Taco Bell, don't let me stop you. Don't let me stop you. I've stopped myself to do enough. Don't let me stop you. Help me help you. But yeah, I think, I don't really remember why I got here, but I'm going to actually, you know what? I'm almost done my coffee. I don't think that's ever happened. I don't think I've taken an entire recording to finish this. I either chug it in the first 5 minutes, like kind of popcorn movie theater method, where you just finish down to the last kernel by the end of the last commercial, before like the coming attractions or whatever. Or I take one sip, forget about it, and it's like kind of sitting off in the corner, sad and lonely. Although I always do chug it in the end. I'm not one of those people that like lets it sit there and go from like hot to like kind of hot to temperature or lukewarm. Why is it called lukewarm? Is room temperature and lukewarm the same thing? And who is Luke? I'm not understanding the ecosystem of this. Lukewarm. Lukewarm, only moderately warm. Why is it called Luke? I do actually, like, if I ever was going to sit down and plan an episode, it would be trying British food. And if I got through that and it was a success, I would plan an episode where I go through and talk about certain words that I use in everyday life. And I know what they mean in context, but like couldn't tell you the history behind why we do that. Lukewarm is a perfect example. I know what lukewarm means. Lukewarm means something is like room temperature, like moderately warm, not the warmest thing ever, but not freezing cold. Lukewarm. Now, who Luke is something I can't tell you. So I'm gonna Google it. Do you know who is a perfect thing to ask? I actually owe this person an apology. I said earlier that I didn't have a co-host. I do. It's my Snapchat AI. Now, according to this, I haven't spoken to my Snapchat AI in 5 weeks, but we're going to bring her back. And I'm going to say, why is it called lukewarm? This is what she said. I'm not exactly sure. Same. But lukewarm might come from the idea of water that's not too hot or too cold. It's like in the middle, just like the name suggests. Okay, this is layered. She said she didn't know and then gave an answer. Kind of weird. What's confusing me, if I was one of the people that annotated books, of which I am not, I would get my highlighter or like my sticky notes and I would underline just like the name suggests and put a question mark. Because like whatever tab color indicated confusion, I would apply that. Because just like the name suggests, I thought we were both in agreement that we don't know what it means. But like we know what it means, but we don't know why it means. Within the ecosystem of the English language, I'm confused. How does a name suggest that if lukewarm doesn't mean anything? Lukewarm. Yikes. Okay, anyway. Okay, what if I just Google what Luke means? Luke, I am your father. Luke definition. Okay, Luke, again, I just typed Luke definition, it's whatever came up. I believe this is from verywellfamily.com. That website title scares me, but we're going to move on. Luke is an English form of the Latin Lucas, from the Greek name Lukos, meaning from Lucania, referring to the region in southern Italy. Yeah, that's not really helping. Google is really hit or miss. Sometimes it's the answer I've needed my entire life, and sometimes it tells me nothing. You know what I really miss? And I do understand, I started wrapping up the show maybe 10 minutes ago, and it just didn't end. And I'm at the point now where it's no one listens to this anyway, so I'm just going to keep going. This episode specifically has now become about filling my own time, as opposed to trying to provide actual entertainment, because I just feel like anything over half an hour, no one is going to listen to anyway. So we might as well just let the good times roll. Lukewarm. That wasn't a fart. That was my mouth, I promise. I don't know what lukewarm... What I really miss, I think I started saying this sentence, is Yahoo Answers. Yahoo Answers, I'm pretty sure I talked about this on the podcast before, but Yahoo Answers will give you, any problem in the ecosystem of human problems. Someone on Yahoo Answers had that problem 12 years before you. Whether that's a specific question in a specific worksheet for a specific class in a specific grade, if you type in that question word for word, you will find on Yahoo Answers someone asking that same question about that exact worksheet. You could type in a moral dilemma. You could say, I saw, someone steal a cheeseburger, and, I have long been an advocate for paying for cheeseburgers, but this person was my best friend. Do I call the Hamburglar on them, or do I not? And that will pop up. And I believe last year or maybe the year before, Yahoo Answers was deleted. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. Something to know about me is when I say last year, I'm probably talking about 2 years ago. And when I say a couple months ago, I'm probably talking about last year. I have quite literally zero concept of time. Zero. Okay, I'm going to be really honest. I'm all about being transparent. I've made it the past 53 minutes, not trying to make the episode any longer, but I feel like I'm so close to an hour that if we could just do this together, if we could hunker down and just complete the next 6.5 minutes, we could say that we made an episode of the Nobody Asked for This podcast that is 1 hour long. Which I don't think at least a solo episode. I've done hour episodes with people before. With humans, with multiple humans. I don't think I've done it alone, and I think let's just go for it. With the notion that I promise this won't become a regular thing. Although again, no one's listening to this, so I guess I can do whatever the heck I want. And I know that this is a little bit hypocritical of me, given that I am someone who often, on this very program, rallies for a reduction in content runtime. I think the farther away we get from having 90-minute movies, the farther away we get from living in an ecosystem of world peace. I just think the second movie started becoming 2.5 hours, 3, more than 3. I just think, of course, things are going to go wrong in the world, and would have regardless of how long we were making our movies. But I can't help but think there's a correlation between those two things happening. Now, the one theory could be the longer we have people in movies, the less time they have to like commit crime and, just like run amok, wreak havoc type thing. Like if we lock all the teenagers, of which I was one, up in a 3.5 hour Marvel movie, that's 3.5 hours where they can really do nothing but look at the newest Marvel movie. But for some reason, I just don't feel like it's having that effect. Also, what happened to Marvel? I haven't seen a Marvel movie being advertised. I personally have seen maybe 10 Marvel movies, and they're cool. I actually, for a while, like really wanted to go back and watch all of the Marvel movies, and I think I watched like 3 of them, and they're good. But then I didn't watch the 4th one, and kind of forgot that I was even planning on doing that. So I might go back and do that. But this was also, for whatever reason, I was in a time where I really wanted stuff to watch. I realized I'm a really bad TV watcher. Like, I don't really watch shows. I don't love, like, watching 17 episodes of a show in one go. I don't really do that. I love a week to week, especially if it's, like, a new show where I can just watch the first episode and I don't have to worry about, like, stressing out and, like, studying the other seasons of the show before the new season comes back. So I'm always open to a new show. But for whatever reason, I don't love watching, like, 48 episodes of Stranger Things in 6 hours. And I don't know why. I think it's something about the passage of time. I feel, like, anxious when I think, like, that's 7 hours gone. That's 7 hours that I could have been, recording 7 episodes of the Nobody Asked for This podcast. I need to get better at just, like, being able to stare at a screen. But this was a time where I was trying to get back into, watching TV and, utilizing the streaming services that I'm paying what I've learned to be like hundreds of dollars on every month. So, anyway, this was also probably around the same time that I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to watch all of the episodes of Grey's Anatomy. I think at that point they had about 370. So I was like, okay, if I watch 1 episode a day, in about a year, I'll have seen all of Grey's Anatomy, and then I'll just have to watch, like, the one season that will have come out during the year that I was watching the old seasons. Since I made that declaration, I can actually find the day that was, because I texted a friend and was like, I'm going to watch Grey's Anatomy. Let's see. I can find you the day. Okay, here we go. Let me see. Okay, I can't find the day. Okay, I think it was. Wait, let me check. Okay, sometime in 2020. Since that day, I have watched exactly 0 episodes of Grey's Anatomy. So that's my type of thing. I love making a plan. I love saying, I'm going to do this. Just to myself. If I tell someone else, like, which I guess I technically did with this Grey's Anatomy thing, but if I'm on, like, a team or it's something for work, like, I'll get anything done. But if it's just me personally, like, something stupid, and I say I'm going to do this, I will make a list. I'll buy whatever I need to buy to make it happen. And then whatever I've bought will sit in a corner and collect dust for 4 years. And then maybe I'll end up doing it, and then maybe not. So, the Grey, I don't know if I buried the lead there, but I have not watched any episodes of Grey's Anatomy since I declared that I was going to do so 3 years ago. And then since then, there's probably like another 80 episodes that I have to watch. So, yeah. I don't know whose fault this is. Probably no one's, but anyway, I think I'm going to do a ceremonial swig of my last sip of my pumpkin cheesecake iced coffee with pumpkin spice seasoning on top. there goes that. And as we approach the 1 hour mark, 1 hour, it's like New Year's, Happy New Year. We have made it. I can finally for you and for me, say we have had a 1 hour episode of the Nobody Asked for This podcast. I'm adding this to my resume. I'm sure I will get a call from some sort of like a radio network or, I don't know, as someone who could like pay me for this. I'm sure they'll be on the line very shortly. Because I basically made podcast history, according to no one but me. But anyway, thank you for listening, as I thanked you 20 minutes ago. I'm sure no one has gotten this far, but that's okay. I still accept you. And I will see you next week. Take care. Happy fall. Happy September. We're like in September now. I think the last episode was I'm actually going to stop talking now. Goodbye.